1912, June 7, 2006. A pair of F-16s released two 500-pound bombs over a low concrete house in Hibhib, north of Baghdad. The blast folds the structure inward. Dust rises. For minutes later, the most hunted man in Iraq lies dead beneath it. For 3 years he moves without pattern. Never the same bed twice. No phone. No address. Thousands of patrols search for him and find nothing. Signals intercepts collect fragments. Satellites record movement without meaning. The network around him breathes, shifts, replaces itself faster than it can be mapped. And yet this moment is not built by the strike. It is built by 2 years. Thousands of raids. Hundreds of interrogations. Millions of minutes listening to silence. Technology watches him for years. A human trail finds him in weeks. That is the difference. Records from 2003 confirm the emergence of a new node inside Iraq's insurgent landscape. Abu Musab al-Zarqawi forms a group that will later be known as al-Qaeda in Iraq. Within a year, post-attack analysis attributes hundreds of suicide bombings to his network. The beheading of a foreign contractor is filmed and distributed. The United Nations headquarters in Baghdad is struck. In 2004, he pledges allegiance to Osama bin Laden, formalizing the network's position inside a global structure. Intelligence summaries reach a consistent conclusion. He cannot be found by searching for him directly. No phone records. No financial trail. No fixed location. Reports list sightings across Baghdad, Fallujah, Ramadi, Baquba. Each contradicts the last. The ratio becomes clear. Volume of data increases. Probability of action decreases. The system is built to process information, not to move inside it. Then the process changes. In 2004, the operational cycle is cut open and rebuilt. Planning no longer precedes action. Action creates information. The delay between the two begins to collapse. A raid launches 90 minutes after a fragment appears. No full picture. Just enough. A door breaks. A man is taken alive. 4 hours. That is the window before the network adjusts. Questions are asked while his world still believes he is free. A phone is pulled from his pocket. It is duplicated. Activated again within 30 minutes. Messages continue to arrive. The network does not know it is speaking to an empty space. Night operations stretch across Ramadi. Heat clings above 30 degrees even after midnight. Dust reduces visibility to less than 50 meters. Radios stay mostly silent. Movement is by memory and hand signals. January 2006. A low-level courier is stopped. Routine. No resistance. Inside his jacket, a number is found. No name attached. Just digits. The number leads to a cleric. Abd al-Rahman. Not a fighter. Not a planner. A spiritual advisor. Surveillance begins. 6 weeks. No interruption. Every step. Every visit. Every deviation from routine is marked and cross-checked. The circle tightens without noise. He moves. They follow. He stops. And does not know. Stanley McChrystal does not enter buildings. He reshapes how others do. Tall, restrained, voice low and even, he stands in briefing rooms before dawn and listens more than he speaks. Every morning at 4 o'clock, a video call connects thousands across continents. Analysts, operators, case officers. No hierarchy in the room. Information moves without waiting for permission. He removes layers. Cuts time. That is his method. He reads reports late into the night. March 2005. A raid hits the wrong house. A family dies. The file is placed on his desk. He does not delegate it. Pages turn slowly. He looks for the fracture point. Finds it. Intelligence confirmed by one source. Not two. The next morning, the rule changes. 2 independent confirmations. No exception. 1 mistake. 1 correction. No repetition. Miles away, in a dim operations center in Baghdad, a senior analyst sits in front of a screen filled with incoming reports. Civilian clothes. Sleeves rolled once, precisely. A pen rests between his fingers, tapping without rhythm. 500 reports in a day. Zarqawi appears in dozens. Different locations. Different times. None align. He reads them all. Marks them. Waits for convergence that does not come. His hand stops mid-note. The data is complete. The picture is not. He looks at the clock. Then back at the screen. The timeline in his head stretches across days. The network outside moves in hours. No decision follows. Records from 2003 to 2004 show a consistent pattern. 18 raids per month. Each operation requires 48 to 72 hours of preparation. Intelligence is collected, reviewed, passed through multiple approval layers. Legal thresholds are met before movement begins. Detainees are transported to central facilities. Interrogations follow scheduled sequences. The extracted information is processed across separate analytical units. Results return to operators after 72 to 96 hours. By the time action resumes, the environment has shifted. Safe houses are abandoned. Phones are discarded. Couriers are replaced. Locations listed in reports no longer exist in reality. The operational half-life of intelligence expires before it is used. The system remains precise. The target remains untouched. Zarqawi continues to move. Then the structure is inverted. By 2005, Task Force 145 increases operational tempo to 300 raids per month. The cycle compresses. Intelligence arrives. A decision follows immediately. Action begins within 90 minutes. No external approval. No delay for completeness. A door is breached. A suspect is secured. Interrogation begins within hours, not days. Information is extracted while the network still believes the individual is active. Phones are exploited on site. Messages are received in real time. Each fragment produces another location. Another name. Another door. One raid feeds 3 more. The network attempts to adapt. It cannot match the speed. Communication chains fracture. Mid-level coordinators disappear faster than they can be replaced. October 2005. A financial operator is captured. Funding channels constrict. November. A senior coordinator is killed. Movement between cells becomes uncertain. December. A recruitment facilitator is taken. Intake slows. January 2006. A number is found. It leads to a man who does not hide. From there, the circle closes. Not by locating one man. By removing everyone around him. Until nothing remains between him and those who are looking. He is not found. He is isolated. Rand Corporation Assessment, 2008, records the structural shift in measurable terms. Sequential intelligence processing, collection, analysis, dissemination, previously consumed up to 96 hours before action. The revised model compresses that cycle to under 2 hours. The data itself does not change. Its lifespan does. Value is no longer tied to accuracy alone, but to how quickly it can be used before it expires. In 2015, internal reflections published by McChrystal described the transformation in simpler language. A machine built for efficiency is replaced by an organism built for adaptation. Information flows laterally. Decisions move downward. The delay between knowing and acting is treated as a liability, not a safeguard. Testimony before the Senate Intelligence Committee in 2007 provides external confirmation. CIA Director Michael Hayden states that the fusion of human intelligence, signals intercepts, and real-time targeting within task Force 145 represents the most significant operational shift in counterterrorism since September 11. The implication is indirect but clear. Prior to this, agencies operated on different clocks. Coordination existed. Synchronization did not. The final confirmation comes from the opposing side. Documents recovered after Zarqawi's death, partially declassified in 2008, describe the change without ambiguity. American operations are now impossible to predict. The interval between their receiving information and acting on it is too short to counter. Networks cannot relocate fast enough. Communication cannot adjust in time. The system that once processed information has become one that hunts with it. And the target no longer has time to disappear. By 2008, the change is no longer debated. It is written into doctrine. The model is formalized under a single loop: find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze, disseminate. A closed cycle. No pauses between stages. What was once sequential is now continuous. Layers are removed. Authority is pushed downward. The system no longer waits for completeness. It moves on sufficiency. The shift is not theoretical. Afghanistan, 2009. A Delta Force element receives fragmentary intelligence at 2200 hours. An improvised explosive device cell is preparing emplacement before dawn. Under the previous structure, the process would begin with planning. Approval. Movement at first light. The window would close before arrival. Instead, confirmation is achieved in 40 minutes. No escalation beyond the team. No delay for a full operational picture. At 23:20, they move. The compound is entered before midnight. The cell is taken intact. Materials are secured. 6 devices are found pre-assembled, staged for deployment within hours. They are never placed. There is no report measuring the lives preserved that night. Only the absence of detonations the next morning. The pattern repeats. Faster decisions. Shorter intervals. Targets lose the ability to react. Then the scale expands. Osama bin Laden is located and killed inside Abbottabad. The cycle holds. Intelligence does not sit. It moves. Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi is tracked, fixed, and eliminated in northern Syria. The loop closes again. No delay long enough for escape. What began as adaptation becomes standard. Speed becomes doctrine. 90 minutes. Not the length of a battle. The lifespan of intelligence before it dies. The window between knowing and acting. That number remains long after the target is gone. Information carries no weight on its own. It exists inside time. When time stretches, it becomes history. When time compresses, it becomes action. Every system eventually reaches the point where its own structure slows it down. At that point, structure becomes weight. You can build systems with money and years of design. But the decision to act before certainty, that is paid for in risk. When the clock is already running, do you trust the process that needs more time, or the person who moves without it? Tell us below.